Welcome to the listening field. Today I am reading a piece called Permission to Rest, a reflection on forcing, waiting, and what arrives in between. You don't need to do anything, just listen. I was going to begin my new journal with a fully formed piece, title and all. Then nothing came. The pencil was still. The page remained empty. I sat with it, left it, came back, left again, returned. Still nothing. Just a blank page beneath a title that sat at the top like a demand, waiting to be satisfied by words that had not arrived yet. And then I noticed something almost funny. I was already doing the thing I had hoped to write about, asking myself to produce what was not ready, reaching for the fully formed before the seed had even broken ground. So I erased the title, and something shifted immediately. A physical thing. The tightening loosened, the constriction of forcing, and it is a physical sensation, that constriction, began to release. The page was just a page again. And I began to write what was actually happening, which it turns out was everything I needed. Here is what I know about the mind. It is a remarkable interface, precise, fast, endlessly capable within its domain. But it was not designed to be the origin of things. It was not built to generate truth from nothing, to manufacture certainty where none exists, to produce the fully formed from the not yet ready. The mind is a translator. It takes what arrives from the body, from the field, from the deeper knowing that moves beneath thought, and gives it language, form, a shape the world can receive. That is its job, and it is extraordinary at that job. But when we ask it to be the source, as well as the translator, when we place a title at the top of a page and ask the mind to fill what lives beneath it, something goes wrong in the system. The mind tries, of course it tries. It has learned to respond to demands, to spin when it cannot deliver, to generate noise in the place where signal has not arrived yet. And in the trying, in that gap between what we are asking and what is actually possible, the tightening begins. The anxiety, the frustration, the going under. This doesn't happen because something is wrong with us. It happens because we asked the wrong thing of the right instrument. There is another way. It is not a new technique, nor a practice with steps to follow. Something simpler and more difficult than that. permission. Permission to let the mind occupy its rightful place. To stop asking it to generate what only arrives when we are still enough to receive it. To stop mistaking the translator for the source. When I erased that title from the page, something released in me that I hadn't realized I was holding. The demand lifted, and in the space that opened, I began to write what was true instead of what I thought should be there, instead of what I imagined a blog piece ought to look like. I wrote what was actually present. The empty page, the still pencil, the almost comic recognition that I was already doing the very thing I had hoped to write about. That recognition didn't come from thinking harder. It arrived. The way things arrive when the mind is finally relaxed enough to receive them. Because the mind at its truest, at its most coherent, is not the one who thinks for the soul. It is the one who becomes transparent enough that the soul may think through it. A transparent mind is not a blank mind. It is not a switched off or bypassed mind. It is a mind that knows its role, its right relationship to the whole. And when I finally stopped asking for what it simply cannot give, the mind spoke. Not in the way I had been demanding, not with the fully formed essay, the perfect title, the arranged sentences. Quietly, simply, words that carried everything. If you'd only let me rest. I have thought about this question of waiting, of giving the mind what it asked for. Because there is a fine line, and I have felt it in my own body, between remaining open and beginning to force, between trusting the seed and anxiously digging it up to check whether it has sprouted yet. On one side of that line, there is spaciousness, room to receive, the mind doing its quiet work of translation without being asked to also be the source of what it translates. On the other side, the tightening begins, the spinning, the going under that comes from swimming too hard against a current that was never asking to be fought. I find myself laughing sometimes at that edge. It isn't that it's funny exactly. It's because the recognition arrives that I am about to ask the impossible of myself again. That the demand has crept back in wearing a different face. And the laughter is its own kind of release, a loosening, a returning to the side of the line where waiting is not failure. Where waiting is, in fact, the most honest thing available. Can I let a seed sprout, send roots, reach the surface? Can I let my mind be still enough to receive what my soul wants translated? I am learning that this is always a question of trust. And I have found one thing to be consistently true. Nothing true has ever been harmed by waiting until it is ready to speak. Thank you for listening.